My name is Lindsay Carden, and I will be presenting on the art process of chromolithography. There were many techniques that preceded and paved the way for chromolithography. The first is woodblock, then etching, lithography, and lithotint. One of the oldest printing techniques after stone carving is woodblock printing. Paper creation can be traced to 105 AD in China. The first Chinese woodblock printed book can be placed at 868 AD, which means that it had been developed long before that year. Japan had a similar printing system at the same time. Woodcut and wood engraving is a relief process where what is not wanted to print is cut away so that the design is raised. Woodblock printing arrived much later to Europe, and Albrecht Dürer was a very skilled wood carver, as shown in his piece here. Popular in the 17th century, etching involved a metal plate, usually a copper plate, then coated with an acid-resistant wax. That layer was scratched to expose the metal in the design that the artist wanted. The plate was then put into acid to deteriorate the metal that was exposed to create crevices for ink to go into. After it is inked, the surface of the plate is wiped so that the ink is only in the crevices. It will then go through a press to transfer the design onto a piece of dampened paper. With etching, the lines that were created from the paper being pushed into the ink-filled crevices could be felt with the fingertips. Lithography was invented by Alois Sennefelder in 1796. Lithography is not a relief or etching, but is a planographic process, not below or above the surface. Lithography was a competitor to the wood engraving style and could imitate it well, along with many other graphic forms. The design was created through a principle that oil and water do not mix. A stone, usually limestone, was used for this process, and after being treated, the stone could be drawn on or painted with a greasy medium. The process has many steps, including chemicals, that help the ink to stick to the design and transfer to paper through a press. It was a monochromatic method of painting, but Sennefelder hoped that later on the process could also include colors. Lithotint was developed by Charles Hulmandel in the late 1830s, which was a way that ink could be diluted and create different layers for the differing values. After lithography, there were many people that found a way to create colored lithography in the 1840s, and chromolithography was introduced to create prints in a full spectrum of colors. Louis Pring discovered how to use lithography to look like an oil painting without the high cost and introduced his ideas to America. This piece is one of his lithographs, titled Prize Babies. Owen Jones was a British architect who also played a role in pioneering chromolithography and including color in architecture. He was a decorative artist who popularized ornamental imagery in Europe. The process required several stones to have as a design layer for each color, and up to 40 stones would be needed for designs with much detail and color. Chromolithographic images were created by printing each color separately and superimposing the colors to create a full color finished print. Using layers of color to create a completed and successful print was a tedious task that required much skill, precision, and teamwork. Each color usually needed to be on its own separate stone, but in some instances the same stone could be used for different colors. Chromolithography was used to print many things, including trade cards, Christmas cards, posters, and calendars. These are often called ephemera. Trade cards were a large part of the chromo era. Trade cards were often used as a fun advertisement for an array of products, including cigarettes and corsets, as shown in these images. Trade cards were normally in a set of similar images, and people often traded them to complete a full set of cards, which introduced the term trading cards. Louis Pring, while in Austria selling prints, was given the idea to start making Christmas cards. After selling them in England successfully for a year, he then moved to America and made it popular. At his best, he produced up to 5 million cards. These designs can look familiar because the style is still quite popular, and Pring often is called the father of the American Christmas card. French artist Jules Cheret was a very successful designer, and using chromolithography created some iconic posters, which is why some people call him the father of the modern poster. Calendars were also used in a way to advertise for products like trade cards were. After 1848, the process of chromolithography was used to create many books that were lower in quality, which brought the reputation of the art form down, and then became less desirable. Good chromolithographers knew how to choose their colors well, but those that used it for commercial designs without mastering the techniques used colors that were harsh and did not sit well with the public. The end of the chromo era was in the 1900s when the other methods of inexpensive color printing were made available. Luckily, those that devoted their time and effort to chromolithography were great record keepers, and we can learn from them and the precision that went into the printing method.